Association. In order to change, it is necessary to observe ourselves, then notice what we are like at present. In what part of you is what you appear to be at this moment? It is in all the roles of centers, all the cycles of repetition that are laid down through the particular action of everyday life on us. What does this mean? It means that since childhood we have had laid down in us all sorts of associations that are represented in our centers, and that act or react mechanically to things. Everyone has had laid down in their centers particular views and ways of taking things, from their mother, from their father, from siblings, from classmates, co-workers, peers, influencers, artists and mentors. From people who surround and have an impact on our psyche every day through the impressions they leave upon us. We all take this rolled-up thing that we label me or I as ourselves. Yet it is simply one pattern of all possible patterns that could lead us to ourselves. This may be difficult to wrap our heads around. All this associative stuff, laid down in centers from our earliest life experience, makes us a certain kind, or a pattern of person, some sort of template. It is unremarkable that no one thinks that they are in any sense some sort of fixed kind of avatar, some person who always behaves in this way or that and so on. This is notable because everyone has the notion that they are liberated, badass, possessing free will and can behave, opine, speak, write, act, understand or whatever they choose, just as they wish to. Which is illusion. Our personality, built up from mother, father, siblings, school, work, religion, culture and politics, is very powerful. It is always acting for us. Yet we have the vision, the feeling and the idea that we are free, that we are in no way prejudiced, in no way fixed, and in no way biased or mechanical. This is an illusion, yet at the same time it is not illusion, in the sense that it is possible to dissolve this mechanism of personality and become free of it. For this, however, it is necessary to pay, and pay for a long time, because if you study alchemy or magic, and even esotericism, then you'll understand that in everything there is balance. There is no such thing as a free lunch. This work is to make that payment right and is the real meaning behind sacrifice. Just what exactly is it that you are prepared to offer of yourself in exchange? It begins with self-observation. So what then does self-observation actually mean? It means to observe what you are like, how you react, what makes you negative, what makes you happy and so on. What rainbows or butterflies are you pursuing every day? This work teaches us specifically to observe certain sides of ourselves uncritically, without justifying things one way or the other. There's no one to explain things to, nobody to defend your thoughts or actions to, except yourself. This is just you, and it's real, but it's where we tend to deceive ourselves the most. To see what we take as ourselves, to see the mechanization of responses, the machine of behavior, the machinations of our thoughts, prejudices and feelings. All of this is the idea behind self-observation. We can all agree that a person cannot change unless they really see themselves. However, people make the most fantastic and ineffectual attempts at maintaining self-image. Herein lies the allegory of Joseph and his technicolored dreamcoat. We often resolve to lose weight, go to the gym more often, get up earlier and work harder at our revenue-generating sources. Work on our relationships with others and so on. New Year resolutions pour from our lips and hearts, but how long do they last for? This work does not start with anything of that kind. It starts with our inner, psychological side. We must observe this side first, as this is where whatever we label as me, myself, or I, resides. First, a change of mind must arise, a change in the regard for ourselves, a change in the very feeling and taste or sense of ourselves. Everyone is identified with themselves, and expect to start any kind of self-improvement from themselves just as they are. This work is about making that, yourself, this, oneself more passive. Who are you? What exactly are you? And why? We are a built-up thing of no use, or of little use to us regardless. We are a slave to this thing that we take for granted, this yourself, this oneself. The work is to change this, that basis that we rest upon, our laurels, this blind acceptance, this thing in us that we have never questioned and so never truly seen. Life lays down in us, chiefly through imitation or reflection, thousands of attitudes, buffers, pictures, stored media, and echoes, in fact thousands of associative patterns. We feel uncomfortable and outcast if we do not follow them. the causes for which lie most in our formative years and developed as a defense mechanism or some sort. It is, however, just one edition of ourselves. This work is about ceasing to identify with that particular oneself formed by the action of life, and from lying or self-deception due to some plastered and acquired persona. Certainly this is very difficult and not for the faint-hearted. To become oriented in a new way is not an easy matter, as we must get underneath that oneself. The work can do nothing for us if we start from that oneself or yourself, from what we project as personality. It is here that so many go wrong and cannot see the meaning of this work. Everyone has a consecrated feeling about themselves, just as they are. However, it lies in the wrong place, in personality. Our personality is not the sacred thing in us. Those deeper feelings of oneself always have the miraculous quality of sacredness, which gives rise to feelings of bliss. That sense of self is very different. We take instead this thing, oneself, as sacred, and so we have that feeling misplaced, within self-esteem, in the feeling that we are of course self-righteous, comfortable in some precious narrative, in our upbringing and in our religion or culture. It is necessary to shift that feeling entirely and go behind oneself, to renew it. To ascribe to ourselves the idea of anything so deep, anything so full of meaning as the word sacred implies, is a crime against oneself. Remember how in the legends of the Holy Grail, some young knight rides out to find the mystical school or castle and must not obey his mother. This is capable of the crudest misinterpretation, however, what does it actually mean? The mother in this allegory is the source of our actions and feelings, our thoughts and influences. We must disobey our personality. In this work, we have to observe that thing we take for granted, and to which all day we say, I. However, it is not I. It is not real I. And it is really many acquired I's. It is a mechanism, a machine of stolen I's. We go about our daily routines fastened tightly to them. We obey them at every point. It says this, and you think you say it. It does that and you think you do it. It feels this and you think you feel it. It thinks that and you believe you think it. It's an operating system of firmware found in the vast associative or silent areas of our brains. It is our pattern, our tendencies, our programming and our registrations, an attempt at forming ourselves, but something misguided and misinformed. It is a small set of neural connections, out of billions, owing to which we must always arrive at the same places and achieve the same results. It is the blue pill of the matrix in us. How, asked Gurdjieff once, is it possible to make impressions fall upon new places in centers? This was his tasking to all of his followers. To begin by getting people to make new movements. He also began by getting people to do things they were not accustomed to doing. The truth, he said, is that everything becomes mechanical after a while, even relationships. So the question arises as to how to make things new. Everything becomes mechanical, I think we could all agree. Have you taken this day quite mechanically? Have you taken your domestic problems just as always? Have you tried to transform anything by taking it in some new way? It is difficult, but it is possible. This is the supreme objective of this work, to get rid of our acquired and mechanical way of taking everything, according to a pattern, a set of associations, an idea of what is right or wrong. The subject of this work is oneself. You and yourself are not the same, yet we take them as the same because people identify with themselves. You identify with yourself and so that self becomes you. You, however, are far older than yourself. But as we do not know ourselves, we do not know that there is anything different in us from this self, and the outer self becomes fused to the inner you, where there develops no separation. You become crystallized in the wrong form or mold. To observe yourself means beginning to make some sort of separation. It begins to divide yourself from you. However, at first this you is merely observing I. But from observing I arises deputy steward, which leads to steward, which in turn reveals the real I. This is you. That you, however, is unattainable if you take yourself immediately as you. To leave behind oneself is not quite what people think. Often when they think they are leaving themselves behind, they are really becoming even more identified. This work provides interesting guidance on what it is that we have to observe, and what we should leave behind. However, people tend to think they know already, and so make an issue, say, of eating or smoking, they deny themselves decent clothes, a bus fare or a milkshake when it is not necessary to do so. Such eyes need to be observed and separated from, as they can form a very powerful system of tyranny in a person. They arise from early associations. A person can remain a slave to them throughout life, which is a dreary slavery leading to absolutely nothing and nowhere but the wearing of hair shirts. In self-observation we begin to notice where we are bound, and to what we are bound, then reason why we bind ourselves in like manner. This should be in accordance with the feeling of this work, for the work shows up life and its action on us. This work is against life. Life has created eyes that trade on us, that consume us for their own survival. It's nothing personal. These are of every kind. Suppose we could let the influences of this work initiate a scourge, then drive out these eyes from within, we would probably be very surprised at what was driven out, and at what the work selected as useless. The first step in this work is to begin to free the self from oneself. The work is not adding something to oneself but taking away from that self, and it is only what is useless to our development that the work seeks to take away.